Welcome to this exclusive interview for the Truth Mechanism in Sri Lanka. We are here today to talk about some pivotal topics that are essential for us. Welcome to the show, doctors.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Good. Very good.
Okay, so what is TRC all about?
So, TRC itself stands for Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In several jurisdictions in the world, truth commissions have been established when, as a measure of transitional justice, these are certain problem countries where problems have occurred over a period of time, and once that gets resolved, there are still grievances that need to be addressed. And in order to address those grievances, states take this measure of establishing truth commissions. For example, South Africa, they have a truth commission. Now, in Sri Lanka, there has been a decision taken by the government of Sri Lanka to establish what is called a Commission for Truth, Unity and Reconciliation. So, although we use the generic term Truth Commission, when it is established, the exact name will be Commission for Truth, Unity and Reconciliation, which will be established by an Act of Parliament. Now, until that is done, there is a draft bill that has just received the cabinet approval for purposes of public circulation in order to receive public comments to see how this law can be further refined. And until that is done and the commission is established, the government has also decided to have an interim body, which is what we represent, the interim secretariat, to lay the foundation for establishing this commission.
Okay, so what are a few of your main goals as an organization?
So when it concerns transitional justice, for example, there are 4 tenets. One is looking into certain atrocities, violation of human rights, humanitarian laws, and so on, and then prosecuting the relevant perpetrators and providing relief to the victims. The second one is to enable a platform for aggrieved persons to come and tell truth and record their truth. And the third one would be to provide reparation for the victims. And the fourth one would be to ensure that past atrocities will not reoccur going forward and enabling reconciliation. So those are the things that have to be, in general, be achieved. So the key objectives of a truth mechanism is to achieve this. So in Sri Lanka, there have been I would say about 2 or 3 years ago, there was an initiative by the government to look into the possibility of establishing a truth mechanism, and sometimes it can be achieved by establishing one mechanism, or it can be achieved by establishing several organizations which would collectively work together in order to achieve the end result. So, as a result of it, we have what is called the Office of Missing Persons and Office of Reparations, which have already been established by Acts of Parliament in 2018. Then there is a bill that is being drafted, and also an office that is functioning under the Ministry of Justice called Office of National Unity and Reconciliation. All these 3 bodies will be continuing bodies going forward, looking into issues in connection with truth and reconciliation and so on. But as you know, in Sri Lanka, we had a civil conflict which ended in 2009, which started back in 1983. So there are grievances resulting from this, the incidents that occurred during that period, 83 to 2009, which remain to be answered. So the idea of establishing the Commission on Truth, Unity and Reconciliation is to address those grievances that occurred during that period.
So if any of you could explain the steps for an inclusive and transparent Truth Commission.
One of the problems that, if you look at the conflict itself, it stems from the idea of exclusion. Communities have been excluded, or smaller groups have been excluded, political organizations. So that is, I think, one of our fundamental purposes, to bring this sense of unity into the community. Now, for that to happen, the foundation of everything is trust. Even for our Truth Commission to work, what's most important is there should be a certain set of trust. Now that, for us, I think would be the greatest challenge. And now we are going around trying to convince people that how we are different from the other organizations and other entities. And if we are to move on to the Truth Commission, then this is the foundation that we need to do, which is why we are going around consulting. The second thing is what we are also trying to do is to look at the various truth commissions which have been established and to identify best practices, the lessons to be learned, and then incorporate those. As much as what we can learn of how successful some of those aspects have been, we can also learn what we should not be doing. And another one is contextual. Not all truth commissions, the way they function, will work here. So, for instance, some of them can be extremely very judicial in process. The others have to incorporate cultural aspects because we have our own cultural milieu within which we can handle some of those processes. So all these, this is quite a complicated process, but we are hoping that with certain guidances and certain procedures that we are putting together, the Commission will be able to function in a more efficient and accountable manner.
So apart from that, what are a few of the other challenges that you all have faced when establishing this company?
That's an interesting question. So some of the challenges are, as you know, the problem that I highlighted earlier ended in 2009 and we are now in 2023. So there is a perception among certain section of people that it's too late, or basically and also some people believe that there were other ad hoc mechanisms or presidential commissions of inquiry, which were appointed, and some of the victims have gone before these ad hoc mechanisms and told their story already, and they may not have got the relief that they expected. So as a result of it, the public expectations have not been met. Now, in a way, that may be true for the reason that some of those commissions of inquiry and ad hoc mechanisms were not real instruments of law that were created by an act of parliament. So as a result of that, when it comes to implementing recommendations or monitoring the implementation of those recommendations, there would have been certain lacunas. Now, the government is very keen to address this, and which is why, as I said, a bill is being drafted, and the proposed commission is to be established as an act of parliament. And once it is established, it will be an independent commission which will function irrespective of changing political power in the country. So there will be continuity, and finally now there will be a mechanism to provide relief, to the victims and will meet the expectations of people.
Okay, yeah. So how does the bill gazette contribute to the reconciliation of the truth-seeking committee?
Yeah, so as I said, you can have commissions of inquiries or ad hoc mechanisms to find out actually what really happened, in this country, and then come up with various suggestions on policy reforms and so on. But if it is not a legal instrument, then it's difficult to implement those ideas. So the whole idea of the draft bill is to follow an inclusive process, give the opinions and views and expectations of the relevant stakeholders, incorporate that into the bill as far as possible. I mean, you might not have a mechanism which satisfies 100% of people. No law would do that or achieve that. But if we can incorporate majority of the concerns and meet majority of the expectations, then we would have a mechanism that would work. So that is where we all come to what my colleague Dr. Tangaraja said. We are doing it not only looking at it locally, we are also studying approximately 12 different jurisdictions where it has been done to identify the best practices and then see how within the Sri Lankan context we can incorporate them and have a law that would work here. So the whole objective is to have a domestic mechanism that uses international best practices and meets the requirements of all the people who expect this mechanism to work.
And also, one of the issues is that there is this general perception that the victims are. This is a conflict between the Tamils and the Sinhalese, so the victims are on both sides. And primarily, the perception is that the Tamils are the victims, which is not so. People from all communities have suffered. If you take the Sinhalese who have been living in the East, they have been the victims. If you take the Tamils in the South, they have been the victims. If you take the Muslims, they have been the victims. So we are hoping by this commission itself will move on to a much broader spectrum of analysis. I say analysis because they have to bring this idea into the functioning of it, because it's not one single community which has suffered. Everybody has a community. As a country, Sri Lankans have suffered, and I think that is where I think the Commission will move forward in bringing a reconciliation.
Okay, so as an organization, what kind of help do you want from the public as well, the private sector and public sector?
Yeah, so see, for a independent commission to function, independent as it may be, but it still needs logistical support from the government, from the public sector. But for it to actually work, there has to be public acceptance and public support. The role for the private sector perhaps would be to facilitate the mechanism in whatever ways they can. It could be by positive publicity and perhaps, providing or coming forward to provide some logistical support in collaboration with the government. So those are things that we might have to, work out going forward. But for the mechanism to work, it has to have logistical support from the government. It has to have public acceptance, and it also needs international support, because there may be certain areas where we might not have the required expertise in Sri Lanka. So we might have to invite perhaps an advisory and consultative, support from people who have done it elsewhere in other jurisdictions and have those mechanisms work.
Yeah. So how do you see TRC's future as an organization in Sri Lanka?
So first of all, for it to really work, as I said, we are representing the interim secretariat and we are providing the platform. But for it to work, the Act of Parliament, the bill that has been drafted now and which has been approved by the Cabinet to be released for public consultation, will have to eventually be passed by Parliament as Act of Parliament, and this legal instrument that I mentioned earlier has to be established, and the real work will be done there. And whether that would work or whether we come to that stage would depend on, I would say, who is in power at the relevant time and the political desire to have the mechanism. But it is established as a nation, we definitely need it. Now, as the interim secretariat, during our public consultation process, which is ongoing, stakeholder consultation process, which is ongoing, we have also spoken to different political leaders. Now, we have spoken to, His Excellency the President, the Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka, the Minister of Justice. So the government commitment is very clear. When we spoke to the leader of the opposition, as well as other political leaders, including politicians from the minority communities, it is very clear that everybody understands that there is a general need for the problem. So I suppose building consensus is not going to be very difficult. There might be certain gaps with regard to their expectations or how it should be implemented, which is what at the interim secretariat we are trying to do, because what we are trying to establish is that this could be everybody's solution. So whoever is in power can take it forward, and what we are doing is we are building an instrument that could last, and provide a lasting solution for the country.
It is also, one of the things that we tend to look at is, as a 100% solution. Nothing is 100% certain. Now, if you look at the truth commissions all over the world, one thing is absolutely certain is the situation is definitely better than what it was post-truth commission. Because there is this positive energy, something is being done. And as DG said, what is happening is this law provides a sense of permanency and an accountability. It's accountable to the Parliament. So what we are hoping is that itself will lay the foundation for it. And also the fact that people themselves they develop this sense of trust, and that will depend on the political environment, the political leadership and so on. But it will definitely give a positive energy and a sense of hope. And that, I think, is what is the most positive element of this.
Definitely. All right, so my last question for the both of you is there any message you want to give out to the public who are watching this video?
Yes, I would say that, as I said, the problem everybody understands. A solution is required is also something that everybody understands. So we need people's cooperation. Very soon, the interim secretariat's website will be up, and we will also upload a copy of the draft bill as a concept paper for public comments. And anybody who is interested in the subject, we would invite them to go through the draft bill and propose, whatever suggestions they have, and to see whether it meets their expectations. If not, what recommendations could we make? Positive criticism, constructive criticism, all that is welcome, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this is an inclusive process which the future of our country or future generation could inherit and be proud of.
All right. Is there any way they can contact you till the website is launched?
The website, yes.
Before that, so it will be launched Yeah, so
It will be launched very soon. I would
Alright.
say within the next couple of weeks.
okay.
But until then, if anybody wants to reach out to us, I'm sure the address of the interim secretary or our contact numbers can be made available, and then they
We'll
could
display
contact
it on
us.
the screen so you all can contact them. Anything you have to say, Doctor?
What is important is, we're always looking at the past. Injustice of the past, human rights violations, and so on have to be dealt with. There's this sense, one of the biggest problems is the denial of what happened. So that is where the element of truth comes in. Having said that, we also have to look forward, look to the future, because what happened in the past, a lot of water has gone under the bridge. But there is a certain element of accountability. But I think we cannot be obsessed with the past. We have to move on. Those of us who are sitting here, I always used to say, we are not even, today, we are yesterday. The young people are the future of this. And I think they have to take ownership. And I think I see very little hostility among the younger generations. I come from a university background. We see very little hostility between the communities. And I think that is the foundation we need to build this on. While being accountable to the past and the truth and acknowledge what has happened, we also have to look to the future. And that is where the young people have to take the onus of responsibility.
If I may add to that, like in gaining independence from the small island state, all communities got together and it was a collective effort. Unfortunately, things have gone sour in between, but there is no reason as to why we can't put up a united front and contribute to making this beautiful country a developed nation.
That's true. Hopefully, we all can come back together and put this together. All right. Thank you so much for joining the show, gentlemen. Hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.